In this lesson, we're going to do two final things in order to finish up our auth for this app. The first thing is to update our route middleware so that we're actually checking for a user to see if we're logged in or not. And the final thing is to provide redirects so that when we're logging in, we get redirected back to the spot that we were trying to go to in the first place. To update our route middleware, we need to open up the file first. We'll grab our user from the use Supabase user composable. And then we'll add into this condition here, if the user is active, if the user exists, then we're going to not do anything. So if the user is logged in, we'll be able to go anywhere in the app. But if the user is not logged in, we'll only allow access to that first chapter. Otherwise, we'll redirect to our login page. Now let's check to see if this works as expected. So if we log in, we can go around onto the first chapter, and we can go to the second and third chapters. However, once we log out, we can click around on the first chapter, but as soon as we try and go to the second chapter, we're redirected back to the login page. So this is the thing that we've been trying to achieve and do this entire chapter, and it took us a while, but we finally got all the pieces together in order to do authentication. But that's just the first piece that we wanted to tackle in this lesson. Because if we go back to our app here, if we want to go to lesson 2 of chapter 2, but we're not logged in yet, the user experience is a bit janky. So we click on the link, we're brought to the login page, we log in, and I need to reauthorize because GitHub is wondering why I'm logging in and out so much. And we're brought back to the home page, but that's not where I wanted to go. I wanted to go to the second lesson of the second chapter. And so I'd have to click on this and then click here again. What we want to do instead is that as soon as we've logged in, we're redirected right back to this route, to the route that we were trying to go to in the first place. In order to do this, we're going to keep track of that route in our query. So in the middleware here, we get this route of where we're trying to go to. And instead of just redirecting straight to the login page, we're actually going to add that query parameter on. We're going to take that full path and add it to a redirect to query. Then in our login page, we can grab that query and use it to redirect properly. First, we'll need to grab the query from the route. Then, in order to construct the URL that we want to redirect to, we take the origin of where we currently are and that query parameter that we passed from our middleware. The sign in with OAuth method has a redirect to option, which we need to pass. From there, we need to add in a watch effect, which will watch to see if the user switches from logged out to logged in. We also need to grab the Supabase user in order to make this work. So what this watch effect does is it will run immediately because it's a watch effect and not just a basic watch. And then if we have a user that's logged in, we will redirect to wherever this redirect to query tells us to. the reason that we need to have this in here and we can't just rely on the redirect to in the Supabase method here is that when Supabase redirects us back to where we want it to go, the middleware does not yet know that we're logged in. And so it kicks us back into the login page yet again. My suspicion is that it's the same session syncing issue that we ran into when logging out. And the same thing applies here. This piece of code enables it to work. And so we're going to go with that. And so to see it working, we're going to log out of our app. Then we'll navigate to the first lesson here. And then as you can see, we click around on the first chapter, we're able to see it just fine. But then when we go to chapter 2, we're redirected to the login page, but we've got that redirect to query param in here. Then we hit login with GitHub. And magically, we're logged in and redirected right back to chapter 2, lesson 2, and we're logged in. So now we've added a bit of a nice UX polish on top of this, and our users will be happy because they don't have to click around all the time, and it just works nicely. In this chapter, we've been talking a lot about OAuth. We've seen in Supabase, we have a ton of different OAuth providers, including GitHub and many, many others. And so in the next lesson, I'm going to take some time and explain what OAuth is at a high level and how we're using it in this application. And that will be the last lesson in this chapter.